Finished.
And go on.
Please turn off all cell phones. The agenda of the Pompton Lakes Zoning Board of Adjustments, May 27, 2025. The following is the agenda of the regular meeting of the Pompton Lakes Zoning Board of Adjustments. The meeting is to be held in the Municipal Building, 25 Lenox Avenue, on Tuesday, May 27, 2025, beginning at 8 p.m. A written advance notice as required by NJSA 10:4-1 etc. has been provided of the meeting at least 48 hours in advance of today, given the time, date, and location, and to the extent known at the time the agenda of this meeting. Such notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken. This meeting will be video recorded and will be broadcast for later viewing for the public. The notice was posted on the bulletin board outside of the offices of the municipal clerk, reserved for this and similar announcements. Provided to the Suburban Friends, the newspaper designated by the council and planning board to receive such notices, and filed with the borough clerk. Please, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the office, we have none. Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Here.
Ms. Curran? Okay. Mr. Koss?
Here.
Ms. Bernstock?
Here.
Mr. Rowan?
Here.
Mr. Baig?
Here.
Mr. Fagula?
Here.
Mr. Devontae will be absent tonight. We have Mayor Sarah, Councilman Cruz, Andy Brewer, Kristen Russell, and in place of Carl will be Nikki Loudless.
Okay. Approval of bills. Colliers Engineering. Minutes. Oh, apologize. Minutes. Everyone had the opportunity to read the minutes from last meeting. Are there any corrections? If none, can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
Second.
To accept?
Abate and Baig?
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Yes.
Mr. Koss?
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock, you were not present, so.
Yep.
Okay. So abstain or present?
What?
She was not here last meeting, so it's
Present.
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 Got it. Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Baig?
Yes.
Mr. Fagula?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Approval of bills. Colliers Engineering.
You could just read the total amount on the bottom?
Yep.
Okay.
$2,433.75.
And then you could go on to the next one.
And then Marizidi, and that is for $1,668.45. Can I get a motion to accept?
Actually, Willie, you made a mistake. It's 2605.83.
Oh, you're correct, thank you. Let's go back. Colliers Engineering is $2,600.83. Thank you for catching that.
I have a different number.
So do I. Okay,
Are you reading the minutes or the agenda?
We don't have it for the 26th. Okay, yes, we're looking at the wrong ones, that's why.
You're looking at the agenda?
Yeah, we're looking at the minutes,
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
you good?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion, we accept A.
Roll call, roll call, please.
Who's second? Fagula?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Yes.
Mr. Koss?
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock?
Do I do a present again?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Baig?
Yes.
Mr. Fagula?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We'll move on to the applications.
Yeah?
2503, 430 Montclair Avenue. Forward.
Unless you want to talk about correspondence.
I don't have any correspondence to,
Two orders.
but I don't have.
Oh, you have it, yeah.
I don't have correspondence to discuss, so I don't know what it's about anyway.
It was sent in your email. Just trying to save paper.
Okay, so correspondence. Excuse me one second, Mr. Wicker. Memo from Elizabeth, Municipal Clerk, Borough of Oakland, ordinance 25 code 963, site plan and subdivision. And then another memo from Elizabeth, Municipal Clerk, ordinance number 36-2025, an ordinance to amend Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 134, Land Development and Code of the Township of Wayne. Anybody have any questions regarding that correspondence? None? So we'll move forward. Application BOA 25-03, 430 Montclair Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker, representing the applicant, 430 Montclair Avenue, LLC, which is the owner, as you know, of 430 Montclair Avenue. Shown on your tax map is lot 13 and block 1800. The property in question contains two commercial buildings. This has been the subject of two applications before the land use boards in this town before. If you recall, 2016, a while back, we got a use variance here and approvals, and we got the approval for a second commercial building on what you all know as the old PSC&G site. The property at that point is in the R-5 zone, so the commercial use by PSC&G. Use variance was granted for the applicant's proposal, which was to have these commercial buildings here. At that time, you made a series of findings of fact regarding the applicant's proposal, and they're referenced in the resolutions that are attached to your application. And just to highlight it, you determined that at that time, based upon the upgrades that were going to occur to the property, that the use variance was appropriate. You also granted variances for dimensional variances, bulk variances, if you will, to permit a 2-foot yard, rear yard setback where 30 was required. And you made a findings of fact, set forth in that resolution that the benefits of granting these variances would outweigh detriments, and there were special reasons to grant the D1 use variance and a D2 variance for the expansion of the non-conforming use. So the first commercial building that was approved is under construction, been built. What we're looking to do now is take the obsolete old PSC&G building down and upgrade the site again by mirroring a second building, making it basically two same-looking buildings that will basically complement the site. There's no other improvements proposed as it pertains to any of the streetscape or whatever. If you've gone by it, I'm sure you all have observed it. It's kept very well, and it has been upgraded and will be maintained. Mr. Turco takes pride in ownership. He is the current principal and owner of this company, and would keep it the same way. And his proposal is to now put up that second building for that purpose. On the basis of that, we submit that the D1 and D2 variance is appropriate because it's basically a continuation of your findings of fact and a continuation of the reasons why a variance relief was granted in the first place. So with that said, we have our same engineer from Conklin Associates, Civil Centers, to testify this evening and take you through the proposal by the applicant.
Please raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last.
Tibor
Latinchich,
No.
spelled Tibor, last name Latinciscs, principal engineer with the firm of Conklin Associates, 29 Church Street, Reddington, New Jersey. PE license number 32444, PP license number 3736. Those licenses are valid and up to date.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Mr. Latentious, just briefly, give us your qualifications. You've been previously qualified as engineer, civil engineer licensed in the state of New Jersey. You just stated your licenses remain in full force and effect,
Yes.
and you continue to practice civil engineering and prepare these plans.
Yes.
I would ask that he be so qualified for the purposes of tonight's hearing and be able to render a professional opinion in that field.
Engineering and planning, right?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Latentious, I'd just like you to explain to the board briefly, give us an overview of what the existing conditions are on the site.
The C conditions, I'm referring to a plan titled, preliminary and final site plan, lot 3.02, lot 1800, 130 Montclair Ave.
Excuse me 1 second.
Microphone?
We can't hear you. So do we have a portable mic, or does he need to come forward and talk
Needs to
closer?
come forward a little bit.
Okay.
And if you can
Slide it
maybe-
up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Referring to exhibit titled A1, which details the property. The existing conditions are, as Mr. Yordica referred to, the dated PSC&G building on the north side of the property. If you remember, that was previously occupied by an auto body shop, is now occupied by Churchill Golf, the principal of the application property. The southern portion of the property, which is on lot 3.01, a separate lot. Specific focus of this application is lot 3.02, which is 34,631 square feet in size. You may recall, last time we appeared here is we subdivided the original lot 13 into two lots, 1301 and 13.02. Tonight we are appearing to redevelop 13.02. Condition of the property is there's a new steel frame, steel clad 6-bay building on lot 3.01. On lot 3.02, which is the subject of this property, is the dated PSC&G building with parking up front.
And so what is being proposed now as far as the building size and dimensions?
It is identical to the existing building on 3.01. It is a 70 by 198 long building with a total area of 13,860 square feet. That building would be broken up into 6 bays for rental and lease purposes. Cited essentially for practical purposes other than a row of trees, some green space on the north side. Essentially, it's 100% paved today. Parking lot will be reconstructed. The entry to the property would be improved for day-to-day use and emergency vehicles as well, to provide a 24-foot wide entrance similar to sister lot of 13.01. When the parking lot is upgraded, it will be upgraded to meet current ADA standards, as well as electrical vehicle charging stations. And one of those will be within the ADA stall as required. Lighting proposed is identical to the building on 13.01. There will be wall pack downcast spotlights on the motion detector and timer with an override, as is normal and customary. The one element, clearly the two properties, which were originally one, are joined at the hip. A cross-access easement is proposed between the two lots. Each lot does have its own 24-foot wide two-way entrance, but people are just used to traveling, throughout the lots. And in addition, they share dumpsters, which we tucked in between the two buildings. They're out of sight, but we indicate a striped fire lane, which lines up with, if you want to call it, the 20-foot wide alleyway between the two buildings, which is where we also tucked the two dumpsters, so they're out of sight. And yes, the garbage hauler would be straddling the property line when he services those dumpsters. So a cross easement to accommodate that is proposed. The ordinance requires 28 parking stalls. 39 parking stalls are provided. To have a clear record, we're here for two purposes. One is a D variance for a commercial use in the R5 zone. The R5 zone requires 7,500 square foot lots. This is a commercial use on a 13,860 square foot lot. And then there's some bulk variances being requested. The rear yard setback required is 10 feet. 2 feet similar to the existing building, that both existing buildings, is proposed. I note that we back up to the New York Susquehanna Railroad line, and beyond that is the Tocon Quarry and 287. Building coverage, the building coverage permitted is 20%, proposed is 40.43%. Again, a very similar use to the building on lot 13.01. And the last variance, section 190-166, signage is not permitted in a residential zone. There's an existing sign, which is 2 by 3 by 6 feet tall. Similar sign is proposed. There's a detail provided on the plan sheet. A similar sign is proposed for lot 13.02. But being that we are in the R5 residential zone, a variance is required.
Now, would it be correct to say that the building coverage that we have here now is different than the building coverage that currently exists?
Yes.
And we actually, just give us those numbers?
And the current building coverage is 20%.
That's what's required.
That's what's permitted,
Yep.
yes. I would have to, current building coverage, I'm searching the numbers here. I'm short on that number, but basically, roughly, it is 60% the size of the proposed building, approximately 10,000 square foot existing building.
So you have on your building coverage plan 42.1% existing, and you're showing it now at 40%, so there's a slight reduction.
Yes,
And would it be correct to say that there's another upgrade to the site besides the landscaping and the modifications to make it a better entryway, that you now have the handicap parking that was not there before, and you also have the EV stations as required by statute?
correct, and an improved entrance for day-to-day use as well as emergency vehicles.
So just putting your planner's hat on for a moment, and you qualified as a licensed planner in New Jersey. You were here for the original application for the original D variances, and you have had the opportunity to review the variance relief granted, the resolutions that were adopted by this board, both for the commercial building as well as for the subdivision, correct?
Correct.
Be correct to say that the basis and substance foundation, if you will, granting the relief then would be pertinent to and appropriate for this variance?
Yes.
These variances, I should say.
Yeah, and the litmus test for D variance is the site is particularly well suited for the proposed use. This was prior to purchase by Montclair Ave LLC or Turco Golf. That's described as an abandoned site by PSE&G. And an original appearance, and I recollect very clearly, the board was very receptive to the upgrading of the site. We have an exact, what is proposed is exactly what we believe is success on lot 3.01. A well-maintained, fully utilized site, that's an improvement to the neighborhood.
And the drainage improvements that were installed previously, those drainage improvements remain and will accommodate what we are proposing.
Yes, the site essentially, other than some 4 oaks on the north side and some scraggly vegetation, and there is very good buffer of vegetation along the front, but the interior of the site is basically, it has been for a long time, 100% paved. There's limitations with these drainage improvements because we are in a wellhead protection area, and there's some monitoring wells from the PSE&G use of this property. So traditional seepage pits are not proposed. Actually, rain barrels are on the existing building, proposed on the proposed building, and as a practical matter, you note that we call that a crushed stone trench along the rear of the proposed building. We're gonna discharge the roof leaders to the back of the building, where there's just, as a practical matter, even though it's the railroad right away, there's just more space.
The board's planner in the resolution of 2016 confirmed and testified as a finding of fact that residential uses were not appropriate for the property because of its location nearby a quarry and a railroad, and those conditions still exist and remain a basis and foundation for granting variance relief this evening.
Yes.
I have nothing further than this. I do have other exhibits to show you just as a handout of what it will look like. We'll just get those.
Renderings of the,
Yeah, once they haven't been submitted, they have to be marked. And those would be,
But these have not been submitted, so this would be A1, A2.
so just describe on the record what it is.
He's gonna hand those out.
these are renderings of the proposed.
One second, so you can hand them out.
He's handing the other things out.
What are those, what are those up there?
Yeah, basically without the trees behind it, just a little bit more.
But it's something, but it's different from what's up
Yeah, so
there.
we'll make this A3.
That's A3. Let's say A2 is a board with 4 sheets, A3 is, send it back.
This is A3?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something about that.
So we have A2 and then A3. Those are,
Can you turn it around so the audience
Yeah.
can see?
yeah. That's so mark those. A3. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sure. This one is,
That's A2.
Thank you.
is there a way that we could, sort of pivot that so that people in the public can see that as well? Keeping it close to when you're talking here. There you go.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You can sit down already. Sorry about that.
So you just described that, what they shown on that board, A2.
These are renderings of there's the existing building, the proposed building, a full property overview and a landscaping plan which is indicative of the existing landscaping that is in place.
You've had the benefit of the Collier Engineering report,
Yes.
and it's correct to say that any of the requests made or can be stipulated that any of those can be met on a revised plan?
Yes.
That's all I have at this time.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions for the application? Testimony.
I want to ask about what we were provided. This information that we're provided here,
Yes?
they said, is this the size that you have available for us to see? Because I can't read this.
No, we submitted larger versions of this, and it is up
So that's an
there.
issue with us then.
B1.
Yeah.
No, we still do the big plans, we've had them delivered.
Now, A through,
Just sealed, that's all.
How many do we have? Just one?
Yeah.
I hate to be redundant, but I have a question about, PSE and platforms where they had, a situation, thank you, where there was contamination from their trucks.
Yes?
And I don't see it indicated anywhere on the plot plan.
I'll say, so T-Boy had testified to this previously. We're under DEP regulations, it's being monitored, and there are wells there, but you can show.
There's monitoring wells, there's a cluster of monitoring wells shown on the plan at the north end. There's one right over here. So there's a series of monitoring wells throughout the site. That is the prior, there's one in front of building on 13.01, there's one here. There's a cluster of 4 here. That is the PS&G's responsibility to monitor the monitoring wells and provide that information to DEP.
Are the wells accessible?
Yes, yes.
Where are they?
There's four right here. There's one right here. There's one right here.
I don't see them earmarked on the plot plan.
They're indicated. Acknowledged it's small, but it's what's more.
It's the little W's. Up there?
2 here, 1 here, 4 here.
Got it.
1 here. There are-
That's 4.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9.
Okay. And how often do they check?
That I cannot give on, I can't give testimony on that.
It's a requirement by the DEP with PSE&G, by basically a DEP agreement. And PSE&G had to bond it, and they are still responsible for all of any work and inspections and fees involved with that.
That part I'm not so concerned about because I know of that law. But I was just curious as to how often they're monitored.
Okay, I can have Mr. Turco testify to that later. We'll hold the question, see if there's any questions of T-Boy, and then I'll have him come up. He's the owner.
Okay.
He would know.
So if I recall, when in the subdivision, Mr. Turco or some of the information about the area that is on the left-hand side of this new proposed building is where he kept a lot of his outdoor equipment?
Yep.
And so that's going to be my next witness.
Okay, we'll wait till Mr. Turco comes
You guys going?
Nope.
Not yet,
Hold
not
on. Okay. So this also, this illustration, that's the proposed new building at A3? Okay. Just want to make sure we do that. I'm gonna get Corey in at this point. Okay, what I'd like to do now is let's bring in Christian from Collier to address the issues that are on
I just
the
have
report.
a few points of clarification that I wanted to go through from my letter. First, can you just clarify the lot area, because you had it in square feet and acres and it didn't match?
Well, it's 34,631 square feet.
The control notes.
34,631 square feet.
I think that's, yeah, 0.79, okay. So the 0.67 is wrong, that I read somewhere.
Looking at.
It might have been on the application. It was probably on the application.
It is, first page.
Okay. So confirmation that 34,631 square feet is the correct lot area.
Yes.
Also, I do see that the, exhibit that you submitted does show landscaping, which isn't shown on the site plans. Can you confirm that the landscaping that was approved as part of your prior approval will carry through to this one? And that will be a condition of approval?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's, back on exhibit A1, there is a photograph of the existing
Okay.
shrubbery in front of along the frontage of the property.
Thank you. I also want, it seems that you have plenty of parking, but I just wanted to confirm that, that it's clear that, as I understand the EV law, that EV handicap space does not count towards your regular ADA requirements. I don't think you're so tight that it doesn't, that it's going to put you in a bind, but you let me know.
You say a standard code
An
that.
EV ADA space does not contribute towards your ADA requirements.
Okay, I can look into that, that's interesting.
I know it in reverse.
I gave the citation in my, I don't think, I have a little rumor that you may not have gotten our most recent, revised plans.
No, we don't.
Okay,
Report.
I can send that to you,
Okay.
because I cite that law, which may be helpful, that you don't need to then go hunting it down. But in the event that I'm correct, I believe you still have enough parking spaces to turn one of them into an ADA space, do you not?
Yes, we have.
Okay,
Yes, 28 are required, 39 are provided.
okay. Can you clarify for me the size of the sign? Because the revised plans that you have and what you provided testimony to was 2 by 3 by 6, but then on, somewhere else on the page, it seemed to show 6 by 6.
It's 4 by 6. In fact, it would be
And then the letter said 4 by 6.
4 by 6. The sign would be identical to the sign in front of lot 3.02.
And that's 4 by 6, you're telling me?
Yes.
Where's the sign on here? Okay, the plans for signature will need to be revised, because that's not what the plans are showing. Well,
Here it's 4, the height is 6.
Well, the
but then this goes down here.
The post is higher.
I see,
posts are higher, the actual sign is 4 by
I
6.
see. All
It's a
right,
twin of the sign that was approved last time, right, Mr.?
Yes.
Yes.
and then somewhere else I read 2 by 3 by 6, I don't, yeah.
Okay, there's a note on the body of the, we can correct that.
Yeah, just for consistency across everything, let's get that, cleared out. That's what I have. Did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned before the existing drainage improvements on the site. Can you go into some more detail on that?
Well, sir, the site has been substantially paved for decades. Traditionally, the improvements, the drainage improvements consist of the gutter system, which drains to rain barrels, and a stone trench to the rear of the buildings. More conventional seepage pits are not permitted on this site, nor required because it was full impervious to begin with, but are not permitted on this site because of the groundwater condition of the monitoring wells.
Understood.
So,
But the existing building now has rain barrels.
yes.
And those rain barrels, when they fill up, are they emptied? Do they overflow?
Mr. Turco testifies, the next witness.
Thank you. The fire access aisle that you described briefly before, I think you were saying it'll be striped for vehicles, garbage collection vehicles come in, back up, and collect the refuse. Is there a plan to actually use that for fire trucks, and have you gotten any feedback from the fire department on that?
I haven't received any reports from any department.
No. Okay.
The travel lanes are 24 feet wide, which is certainly adequate for a fire truck. Hopefully we won't need them.
And they'll be able to make the turn in, is that
Yes.
your testimony from Montclair? Make that right turn in with the radius that's provided on the curb?
Montclair Avenue to the site, absolutely. Montclair has curb to curb is 35.6 feet wide, so it's actually 6.5 feet wider than your standard 30-foot road. And I tell you, visually it looks even more, but it's 35.6 feet wide. It's amazing what difference that 6 feet makes.
I'm just thinking, as it turns in, I won't go into it too much, but as it turns in, you do have an island that bumps out, so, if it's...
But if you notice that those islands do not go the full length of the parking stalls.
Correct.
So they're specifically for that reason.
Thank you. There were some other comments that we had that were minor, that were more planned comments. Do you agree to address those, like showing the bollards on the plan and the details?
We stipulated in his testimony that any of the conditions in your letter can be made conditions of a resolution if the board was so inclined to approve this.
And I guess my last question is on the lighting. Can you tell us what's there now? Is it just wall packs?
Yes.
And is the parking sufficiently lit in your professional opinion? Because I know that there aren't any light poles within the site.
Yes.
That was a concern when we came here first time, and because of the residential nearby, and we saw that the light packs would work appropriately and didn't have to put poles out there, so that's why we kept it that way.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for me.
Go ahead, you first.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the fire lane and also the area in between the two buildings. Is there anything that restricts you from putting a fence up in here?
Well, we're going to have a cross easement in the parking lot, so that will not permit a fence to go up. So the recorded document.
This area would always be open and accessible is my point, right? There's never going to be a fence in between,
No.
and so that
Cannot
fire,
be. No.
people can come from either direction to get into a fire.
That's right.
Is that a deed restriction?
It's
or
a
is that-
deed, it's a deed restriction.
Okay, and that's what you had mentioned earlier when you were saying about there was something with the access and restrictions.
Correct.
There is a letter from John Keating in the packet that he's waiting on some kind of documentation overall site so that he can report from the fire department standpoint to make sure that it all, so that he'll have an opportunity to review it. So I don't see that,
If you had a copy of that.
yeah, so I
If
just
we
want
could
to
have a copy of that letter, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
And not seeing any doors on the sides of the buildings, is that true? There's only doors in the front, right? There's no, so these passageways are, no openings into the passageway.
That's correct.
We have only 2 dumpsters there, and that would prevent vehicles from parking.
Understood.
And that would be, is there any restrictions from them parking vehicles there next to the building like that?
It's going to be striped.
Okay.
Be a dumpster down here.
Well, what if they decide to move the dumpsters back and say that, well, we have more parking here? I mean, is there any restriction?
You're approving a site plan that requires things to be in a certain location, if you were to approve this, so they have to be there. It will not be a designated parking space, it will be a designated dumpster area.
Is there anything that says it'll be located here, or just because of this drawing?
Well, municipal land use law says that if a board approves a plan, the specifications on the plan is what has to be adhered to when it's built.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to go back to the letter from John Keating. He did say that he did review the application, and the Fire Prevention Office has no objection.
Oh, I see.
Okay? So it is in the packet.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions for the testimony that was given? No? Okay, at this point, I would like to open up to the public to come up and ask questions of the testimony that was given by the planner. Anybody from the public? Come on up, sir.
If you just have questions, you don't have to get sworn in, but please give your name and your address.
Well, my name is Paul W. Tannick. I own 472 Montclair Ave, Lot 18. And the first thing I'd like to do is compliment the board, because I was here the first time they went through, and it's been an improvement for my house on the last house.
You gotta get sworn in there.
Okay.
Questions. Even if you say nice things, you gotta get sworn in.
No, I'll get sworn in.
Please raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last.
I'm Paul W. Tannick, T-E-N-E-Y-C-K.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So, you got it. All right, to start all over. Good evening, I'm very happy with this board. I think they're always fair to all the applicants and everything. I was here the first time when the building came up, and for my house being caught between 500 trucks a day with Tilcon and the public service, it's been an improvement noise-wise for my tenant in that house, and I know Tilcon's going to be ending that. But, so basically, I don't have any problem with what they want to do. If the board accepts it, I trust the board to let it go through. And my only question is, probably in a year or so, since I own Lot 18, I'd probably like to put a little storage unit up on that, and I'm just hoping that whatever's granted here, since I'm like an Oreo cookie in between 2 big companies here, I'd like to put a little storage unit up there, and I hope it would be acceptable that I get the same considerations, setbacks and everything to make it easier for me. So I don't know what you think you could do, but I'm happy with the board. I'm Mr. Turco, him I don't know, Mr. Whitaker I know, G. War I know, and Mr. Turco, they've done a good job, and they think it would be an improvement to the neighborhood to pass this. But if the board doesn't think so, then I'll vote no against it, because I trust you guys more than everybody else. So anyway, thank you for the time, and just for your consideration, and just remember to see me in a little while. I hope that I get the same consideration as Mr., as all the applicants here, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public? Sir?
Randy at 443 Montclair Ave, right across the street from the proposed project. I need to swear.
Yeah. If it's just gonna be questions, no. If you might give testimony, yes.
Oh, I got a lot of questions.
Let's just swear. State your name, spell your last again.
Randy Hinton.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Of course I do, so help me God. The only thing that I received was a letter from the attorneys, because I'm within 200 feet of the proposed project. So that's the only thing I had to go on. The letter stating notice of public hearing, Pompton Lakes Zoning Board of Adjustment. Down in the second paragraph, it says the applicant seeks preliminary and final site plan approval. Both at the same time? Is that normal?
That's not uncommon. If there's not going to be many conditions, that things that have to get changed, and everything is getting approved at one time, that's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. The applicant also seeks the following variances: a use variance to permit commercial utility building in a zone where the use is not permitted. Why is it not permitted? Because it's really a residential area, or?
That's correct.
All right, now that building has been there long before, well, not before I was born, but it's been there a long time.
And it was referenced in the old the testimony from 2016, and that situation kind of carries on.
Okay, the rear setback of 2 feet where 10 feet is required. Usually on the setbacks, as you all know, is to maintain that in between the property line and the building. Now, under testimony here, they just talked that it's going to be crushed stone. So there's not going to be any grass or weeds or trees that need to be maintained. So I agree with that, that's fine. The building coverage is double what it's supposed to be. Is this unusual? I mean, the other building that's there is fine, and there's not a problem with that building coverage twice.
So the testimony is that this actually would be a small reduction for what's there today.
Yeah, it's 40.43%, where 20% is maximum permitted.
Yeah, and there's 41 there now.
Okay, so, the dumpster issue, I live right across the street. They have 2 dumpsters as you pull into the driveway. I gotta say one thing about Mr. Turco. Since Mr. Turco has bought the property, he's done everything any of the neighbors asked. He's improved the property, he's landscaped the property. He's really been a good neighbor. I never brought up to him about the dumpsters. They pick up the dumpsters sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning with large, heavy objects. I hope that can stop, and it can happen after 7 o'clock when normal time is. There seems to be 2 different companies that pick up the dumpsters there, and they come at various times, most times before 7 a.m., and they wake up all the neighbors. I hope we can rectify that. The signage you were just talking about, 4 foot by 6 foot, 24 square feet. It was 15 square feet on my letter here. So the signage is bigger than was stated in the letter. Don't know why. 4 foot by 6 foot is a pretty big sign. I hope you can look into that.
This sign would be the same as the sign that's out there now on the other building.
Down the street, down towards the other gentleman's house, towards Broad Street.
Right. Right, Mr. Turco is gonna make it a twin. There's one sign there now, he's gonna make a second sign.
Okay,
Be
so
the
then
same.
that sign, if it was
Be the same.
4 foot by 6 foot,
That's correct.
bigger than was in the letter here. 15 square foot was in the letter
Yes.
from you.
Yes.
So you said 15 square foot, and there's already a sign that's bigger than that.
That's correct on the other lot.
So what are we doing with the signage then? The last paragraph said, in addition to the above request, the applicant further requests that the application be deemed amended to include the board grant any additional approvals, variances, exceptions, or waivers determined to be necessary. Determined by who?
By this board. That is typical. The New Jersey Supreme Court has said that when you give, they've realized that when you give notice to the public, occasionally things get missed. So their professionals look at it, our professionals look at it, and occasionally they missed a variance or 2 variances. You're going through it. And the Supreme Court has essentially said if you put in that every variance that you know of, and then also something that's called, what you read is called a catch-all. And by the way, anything else that that the board or anybody else determines is necessary because somebody happened to miss a variance, you're allowed to ask it that way. As long as you list everything that you know of and you say, and we're also going to ask for any of the variances that the board determines are necessary. It's to catch things that are missed.
Okay, so it's anything that got missed, just the project.
That's what that's called, a catch-all provision.
Okay. Because it says, in review of the processing of this application, whether requested by the applicant, the board, or otherwise. So who's the otherwise?
Board's professionals.
Oh,
And occasionally, members of the public point things out too.
okay. Furthermore, to the extent deemed necessary, by the board.
The board and their professionals.
Okay. An applicant requests variance and/or waiver relief from any and all pre-existing non-conforming site conditions. To the layman, it sounds like a get-out-of-jail-free card. I understand.
Pre-existing non-conforming conditions, sometimes some boards, if you have been approved for it, and the property is seeking new approval, but those conditions stay exactly the same, technically it's a new application that is still a variance, and different boards, some require you actually justify those variances again, others say, it existed before, nothing has changed, they're automatic. You don't have to provide specific proofs for those pre-existing conditions.
Okay. Will Turco Golf occupy any of the new buildings, or will they all be rentals to other businesses?
Okay, Mr. Turco will testify to that in a moment.
Okay. It says 28 parking spots required, 39 provided. How can parking be known if the rental requirements are not known of the new tenants?
The parking designations in the ordinance provides for the amount of required parking for any site plan. So the ordinances in Pompton Lakes require us, based on the square footage of this commercial building, the 28.
One of the rentals that he has in the building that's there now is an auto body. They park a lot of their cars, some without license plates, out on the street. And we brought that up a few times. I've been over there to talk to them, and a lot of times they'll move the cars. So now if we're putting 6 more units in, now if it's a mechanic, the same problem may happen again. So that's what was my question. Mr. Turco, I have to admit, with his company and his men, it's been excellent. If we had a problem with parking, because it seems to be commercial now with his building across the street, and on my side of the street, it's residential. And a lot of the tenants park in front of their homes. A lot of the homeowners park in front of their homes. Quite often, especially with that Actors little place there, they bring a lot of people in. They set up for stunts in movies. And a lot of times other people come in for them to set up the stunt. They're out in New York State, they're from all over. And they'll park where we and our tenants park. And I've gone over there and had words with the gentleman, and he wasn't the most pleasant. But, so we do have issues on the residential side. So that's why I'm concerned about the parking and who is going to be occupying these buildings. Lighting has been pretty good. Mr. Turco planted arborvitaes. He did cut the tops of them off, but we won't say anything. The higher they are, of course, the more lighting it blocks, And with second stories, a lot of that lighting does come across the street. So, but like I said, he has been great with the plantings that he has. But we are concerned about the lighting. If all that lighting can reflect back to the building, it would help the residents on our side of the street. Dumpsters, they're not going to be visible from the street, or are they? Right now, they are visible through the driveway.
I can have Tibor, if you want to just comment, show where they are. They're not in front of the entranceway, correct?
All right.
The current dumpsters are to the south, to the left of the PS safety building. They are being moved further south in between the 2 existing buildings. and they will be hidden by the landscaping up front.
That's good. The monitoring wells, there are 2 more on Montclair Ave, about 4 houses down from my house.
On your side of the street?
On my side of the street, yes, where John Wegley used to live. I don't know if you know, you must know John Wegley. So yes, there are other monitoring wells off-site on Montclair Avenue. Yeah, if Mr. Turco can answer a few of those questions for me, I'd appreciate it. But other than that, I have to say, since Mr. Turco has owned the property, he's been very good, he's maintained the property, and he's been a good neighbor. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and ask anything of the testimony that was given? See none, I will close that session.
Next witness will be Mr. Turco. Claire?
Please raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last.
Larry Turco, T-U-R-C-O.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Mr. Turco, correct to say that you're the principal of 430 Montclair Avenue LLC?
Yes,
And you've been in charge and have owned this, since you've owned this property, you're the one that has brought these previous applications as it pertains to the development of the property and the subdivision of the property.
yes,
And you have your own businesses there, but you are very familiar with the day-to-day operations at the site, correct?
yes,
And in fact, you come and go to that site quite often, correct?
yes,
And you have employees on site that report to you.
yes,
Tell the board and explain to the board, or let me do this, you're also a principal of Grasskeepers and Turco Golf, is that correct?
yes.
Explain to the board what your proposal is with this new building as it relates to Turco Golf and Grasskeepers.
Well, we're gonna replace the building with a more efficient building, and our offices are gonna be relocated. So, there's not gonna be any office space, because we occupy the office with a lot of employees. So we're gonna be moving to another location, that we've already designated, once this gets built. As far as the equipment's concerned, we're not gonna be able to park the equipment there because it's gonna be a rental property. We'll occupy 1 or 2 sites for storage, but there's not gonna be any heavy equipment there, after the building is built.
So-
It'll strictly be, we'll be a tenant in the complex, maybe 1 unit, at most, maybe 2. But we just built another industrial park in Rockland County that's completed. And we're going to be relocating our corporate offices back to Rockland County. And we also have other storage areas that we're going to have our equipment stored there.
So correct to say that the equipment that you're storing there now, outside, whatever, that will all be removed if this were built?
Absolutely.
In connection with the garbage pickup that you heard this evening, I know owners have a lot of trouble controlling private contractors, but would it be correct to say that you contact them to try to get them to adjust their hours for pickup?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't aware they were coming that early.
So, 7 a.m. or thereafter?
I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
You never mentioned that to me.
I said that. I said I never was able to get
If
it.
you mentioned it to me, it would have been addressed in the letter.
And I agree.
Okay, let's
Good. That's good, okay.
keep it here.
Exactly.
I have nothing further. Any other questions? I don't recall.
Yeah, we have the monitoring ones.
Oh, how often do they come to the monitoring well?
Well, they've been monitoring for years, and they come once a year. Those wells are clean. All the tests are clean. The water is absolutely, there's no more contamination. They did remove all the contamination before we bought the property, and they filled it with clean soil. So the soil is not contaminated presently. All the wells are monitored, and every report every year comes back, drinkable water, believe it or not. I mean, we don't drink it, but there's no contamination.
Do they file a report with the
Oh,
town?
absolutely. No, they follow the DEP.
I'm sorry?
The DEP. We have a very,
Oh,
it's very, they're tight, they're very strict. It gets filed, it gets submitted, it gets reviewed, and we get copies of everything. These wells, just so you know, they're 6 inches. They're 8-inch caps, okay? They're vertical in the ground with pilings, maybe 20, 30 feet. So the cap's almost like a sprinkler head. So when they come in, they just unscrew it and they put this apparatus in, and it goes all the way down. So it's not a big well. These are like caps. And they have, and eventually, I mean, really, they've been cleaned, but I guess the state requires them still to monitor yearly. Before we bought the property, we had an agreement with PSE&G, that they are required forever to maintain the wells, and forever to do the monitoring and the expenses borne by them. And that's in our deed restriction and our covenants in our agreement.
The other part of Randy's testimony was the auto part, the auto body shop parking non-licensed vehicles.
I wasn't even aware of
I
that.
understand, and
Okay.
I was wondering if we could make that a part of your notes so that we can,
No unlicensed vehicles on the street.
correct.
I'll go speak to that gentleman now that I was made aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing that we do is, we have many businesses, and many other real estate properties. We have very strict, leases, and they're monitored. And we are very strict with monitoring the properties and what they do, how they park. I mean, we've had, several incidences that we had to remove cars. So we're constantly monitoring the site, and we take, our investments literally, because the tenants need to have parking, but they also can abuse it. So now that that was brought to my attention, we'll make sure that we address that in a memorandum to all the tenants.
Very good, thank you.
Just one question. In the new building, who do you plan to rent to? Do you have any plans of rental?
Well, so we vet everybody, and we don't have any, we're gonna take a spot, but it's gonna be similar uses, and it's gonna be monitored. I mean, right now, the building is bigger there now than where, what we're putting in, and there's not gonna be any office, so the tenants probably, the carpenter that's there wants to take a spot. He might wanna take 2. We have an electrician that's inquired about being interested in renting. We have a plumber.
Okay.
So we have that type of use right now.
Thank you.
We're looking to rent. Now, you mentioned the lighting also, which I just want to mention, but the lighting is very adequate. I mean, you're saying that it goes across the street. I mean, we've monitored it with all the arborvitae's. It's adequate, and we don't see anything going through the plant, so we'll just make sure that they get adjusted if that's happening.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
So I have a question in regards to the parking, because I can see that being a concern. If Larry was not the owner, and is there anything that restricts anybody from stopping them other than the owner? As far as how many people are parking in the street? That my question is whether this application has any type of restrictions as far as parking in the street. And I'm curious, other than the owner, because you can see how people can take up the spots where the residents are used to, parking, and how that could become a problem. So I'm asking, is there any type of restriction in this application?
They have not proposed any. Typically, the way it is handled is that the parking regulations, which require X amount of spots for commercial use, takes into account what should be sufficient. So if it is a popular business that drives more customers than we would have thought, no, that's not something that's really dealt with. That's why they set the number. Having an unlicensed car on the street, that's enforcement. That's illegal. They can get towed, anything else. So they can go to the police department, or something. That's an enforcement.
But I'm referring to licensed vehicles that come in that have someone that has a business here, and their employees are coming here. They're not parking in the parking lot. They're parking on the street, and they're going out and doing things. And we don't know how many other vehicles could become involved. We are talking about a lot more square footage of a building, a lot more, spaces are somewhat being provided, but my question is down the road, when who knows what, is there any way to restrict the number of vehicles that are attributed to this usage and this site that are being parked in the street? Is there any way to limit that?
Typically, no. Only if they're doing something illegal. That is the function of the governing body in setting the number of parking. They're supposed to take into account, all right, what amount of parking is going to be necessary for this type of use, so that they have sufficient parking and it doesn't clog the streets. That's what the parking requirements are designed to do.
So then I'm going to ask Larry, as far as, or Mr. Turco, as far as what you talked about in terms of your usage of the buildings, you take into account the type of business that's there and how many vehicles that they may have and be bringing in, like if it was 3 auto, either shops or, customization guys, and there's sound guys, and they're all bringing in vehicles, and those vehicles are being parked and...
The leases have strict parking requirements per building, so we control that. People that are parking right now on the street are my employees, unfortunately, and they're not gonna be there anymore. Most of the parking are right now in the street, my employees park there. So when we rebuild the building, that really should not be an issue. We do have very strict leases and really 3-4 spots each tenant gets, and we monitor them. And if they, don't follow instructions, we terminate their lease. I mean, we really strictly enforce it, because anyone, it's like anything else. If you don't enforce it, and we do have a good system in place, and we make sure that the parking that the tenant that basically rents from us isn't going to have excess cars to cause a problem like we're talking about. Now, there have been some instances that the street gets busy because of our employees in our office. That will be mitigated because there's not going to be any more office use there. Because right now, we're using it as an office, and the employees aren't going to report there anymore. They're going to go to a different location. What's nice about the tenants we have, they come and go. Grasskeepers comes at 7, stays there till 5. That's going to be mitigated because we're not going to be working on it anymore.
Yeah, to clarify, the application before you is for a D variance for commercial utility storage. It's not for a D variance for a garage, and it's not a D variance for an office. So those uses are not allowed there.
My office was approved there before it came.
I don't know, I can't speak to what was approved before, but on this site that's being approved now, it's commercial utility storage.
The new boat.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, not that, yeah, that, I shouldn't say that's being approved now, that you're considering for approval now is for commercial utility storage. It's not, they can't put a garage there. There won't be 3 garages there unless you were inclined to grant more D variances.
But our previous approval permitted office use in the old resolution for Turco Golf, an automotive service center, truck, bus, off-road vehicle storage or use of construction equipment and materials, storage and maintenance of equipment and materials for landscaping. We are trying to do a twin building, so it would be those same uses.
That's not what we reviewed this for. That's not what your application was for.
Did I finish? In our prior application, we pulled all of that commercial storage building way back when. I apologize if I used the same language I used 10 years ago, but that was not correct. So we'll amend our application to want the same uses that was approved in 2016.
That would also trigger further parking calculation issues. So I don't know, like the calculation that we did for parking is for storage. I don't know what if it was offices, if it was garages, if it was anything other than storage, the parking calculation is going to be different.
Okay, so the Turco Golf had offices there, and we testified to that. I know you weren't here
I know.
10 years ago.
I'm not questioning what is there under a prior approval. I'm looking at what you're proposing to be there going forward. And if we did the math for a storage building and you're also contemplating these other uses, that was not part of our analysis.
We could stipulate no offices. Let's go through this.
There's no offices, that's what.
Well, the new building will not have offices.
No, we're not going to move that in. Right now, it's.
And the new tenants coming in will not be an office tenant, it'll be one like you just described?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we
So,
discussed.
no office. Right.
That's what we discussed, when we got the prior approval. This is not no secret, so
No, but on the new proposal,
maybe it
we're
wasn't
saying
clear
is-
on the new application.
That's
but we're-
correct.
We're proposing exactly what we proposed when we got the original approval. Nothing is different.
Well, what's different is that the words that were used triggered the analysis that was done by the board's professionals. If what is being said is that the proposed use is not what was written in this application, but what happened previously, then that's something that our consultants, I believe, are saying, if that is what you're looking for, that their analysis is incomplete. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Because they based it on the language that was used for this specific application, not previously. What was conveyed in this application that would be used.
So let's be clear, Larry, as to the type of tenants that you are proposing for this new building. Automotive repair?
Not specifically, but if it happened to come up, we would
Well,
consider it.
we have to put this on the record as to what the uses would be. Storage of construction equipment you talked about, and you have there now, a carpenter, correct? Okay. Carpenter or plumber or electrician, okay. Storage and maintenance of equipment and material.
Yeah.
Truck, bus, off-road vehicle usage, and maintenance yard. There'll be no maintenance yard anymore because we're using that
It
park.
might be that, yeah.
And no office use.
Except if they have like an office in that building that they need to have a desk for an office, but it's not an office building.
So the plumber may have a desk there to
Right.
write up his bill at the end of the day, but that would be ancillary to the
Well, I want to
primary
make
use.
sure we're clear, because
Yes.
I'd like to be clear.
Yep.
I don't like not to be clear.
So just to be clear, a business would not operate out of there, only the business entity would have their materials and their equipment and that type of stuff, but they're not operating out of there, is that correct?
Correct.
So a carpenter would have all his wood there, he could come in, he might cut a couple pieces of wood before he goes to a job, and he might write at the end of the day on a desk to send an invoice out, or a computer to send an invoice out these days, and things like that. But no office staff.
Well, one guy working in there or six guys in there cutting wood, that's my question then. I mean, where's the line?
Well, there is no line if they come and go from that place, that's what we've had in the past. That's what was approved at the other building.
As long as I'm clear that it's not a business operating out of there, like a guy has a sound installation business, and they're bringing cars in there and they're installing sound equipment into that car, right? That's not happening there.
That's being done now. That's part of the automotive service that's in the current building.
That's a business.
They're gonna operate businesses from there.
I'm gonna probably put it on Kristen, unfortunately. Do you believe that what has just been listed as intensive uses that could be there, that they're looking for, is something that you've done the analysis for yet, or would that take
I don't
more?
know how we would calculate the parking without knowing exactly, I mean, it's particularly the automotive thing that is, you know, like something like storage and industrial manufacturing, which is the closest thing I can come up with right now to like a carpenter type of thing. Those have the same parking standards as one another, so it doesn't matter. But when we get to something like the garage, it's 1 space per employee plus 4 per bay. Now, does the Pompton Lakes zoning officer have a, for lack of a better word, veto over a tenant if there's not enough parking remaining on site? That's the only way I can think to stop it before we have a tenant move in if we don't know the tenant or the use composition at this point in the game.
So I would agree that I think the right way to do this is the approval is granted. We have to have a tenant application for each of the tenants that come into a commercial space in Pompton Lakes. And he's going to have to see if the use that's proposed fits within the parking parameters that comes up to the maximum number of parking spaces that we have. I think we're both saying the same thing.
I think so, but does Pompton Lakes do it that way? Yes?
Change of use.
Change of use, I've
Okay.
been doing it for years, that way,
Okay.
yeah.
New tenant, new
Mr. Turco has a
use.
question.
Yes. For the record, there is a tenant application that gets submitted. The tenant goes talk to the building inspector. The building inspector talks to the tenant before they move in. That's what they've done
It's
every
a formal
time.
submission, you have to get it
There's
through.
been a formal submission. It's already in place. No one moves in without going to the.
As
building.
long as there's somebody to say, oh, if you're gonna do that use that has a higher parking demand, and somebody can verify that that many spaces are actually left, then I think it's probably okay.
And we stipulate to that would have to be.
The process right now is that the tenants, when someone comes to, all our real properties, this is the way it works. They go talk to the building inspector, and they fill out an application. And then the building inspector comes out and gives them a tenancy CLO. They don't move in without that. The town's in full
In
control
in this town,
in this town.
you have to show a parking count when you make a submission
And zoning.
on the use, on zoning.
So they don't move in without the fire guy comes out and inspects.
My issue is that looking at and saying 28 or 29 spaces is required. And so site plan is being requested. That requires them to look at it and say, proposed, or potential uses could require this many parking spaces, and they have that many parking spaces. If it is not, what you're saying is that, since this is residential, you're gonna have to list all the potential uses, and she's gonna have to do it beforehand. There's just no way this can be done otherwise. Because if you're allowing uses that are not residential, you're gonna have to say what's being proposed.
The 2016 resolution has a list.
But this is something new. If she hasn't done that analysis to see if that parking is sufficient, that's the problem. What, that 2016 isn't what specifically was asked here. If you're looking for site plan on something specific, a building that's gonna have X, that's what she reviewed. It may be just pushing this for a month to really figure this out, but that's my suspicion of what should be done here. To really make sure, and it might be clear that it is, but that the number of parking spaces is sufficient for the uses that are potentially going to be in this property.
But we would have to do some sort of mix and match as to how much space would be taken up with different uses.
So let's look at it from a practical standpoint. And I do a great deal of work with commercial buildings and leases. And going to a zoning officer to see if the parking for the use being proposed is going to meet the standards, and I don't wind up with space I can't use, the landlord can't use, because it's overcommitted on the other spaces. We got 6 units here. Hypothetically, if we take and come to the zoning officer with a commercial use that requires more parking spaces than would result in having to go over the 38 or 39 that we have, at that point, we wouldn't rent to that person and then have empty space. That's the practical standpoint, the practical reality of it.
Well, unless the tenant was like, well, we're just gonna park on the street, that's what we're trying to prevent.
No, the zoning officer would say you could not be there.
Right.
No, it wouldn't be parking on the street. Zoning officer would say, you're out of room, you took a use that eliminated certain square footage in your building that could never be used. And this landlord, I know, is not gonna ever do that. Okay, we're gonna walk in with a tenant, show the zoning officer, fill out the application, and at that point, make sure that we have sufficient parking that we can use all of the space in the building. I'm familiar with the zoning ordinance in Pompton Lakes. I'll date myself. I go back to when Ron Higgins and I were doing tenant approvals. back in the 80s. So I know, I mean, I know Pompton Lakes and the zoning officers in the past and what they've required.
It's appreciated that, say, the owner would be more conscientious of it, but we also have to think about the fact that he may not always be the owner. We're putting something in motion that's going to exist in perpetuity.
But any owner has to go to the zoning officer before a tenant can move into a building, and they have to show number of employees, they have to show the type of use. The zoning officer has to look at the chart and determine then how many parking spaces are attributable to that leased space.
I'm comfortable with putting, if the board wants to consider it tonight, a significant number of conditions that on each new tenant, each change new tenant, there would have to be written confirmation from the zoning officer that there's still sufficient parking within the site plan that was approved. And if not, they're going to have to go back to amended site plan.
I have no objection to that. That's no problem at all.
Could we also require that the zoning table be updated to show, I know without knowing how much square footage or bays are dedicated to each use, it's a little bit hard to know, but it should at least list the standard for the different uses. Even if we can't do the math for the requirement, it should at least say 1 to 500 square feet for storage, 1 to 500 square feet for light industrial, 4 per bay plus 1 per employee for automotive.
So putting that on the plan itself.
I think
in a chart.
I think there needs to be a parking table on the plans.
Okay.
And they need to, even if you can't do the math and say what the final number is, I want those requirements to be on the plan so that when the inspector or the zoning officer, or whoever, is looking at the plans, that's in his face.
Understood, not a problem. Good suggestion.
You can ask questions, yes. Right.
Okay, I just want to make it clear, parking in Pompton Lakes on the street, not that I'm telling you, I want you guys to park on the street, I don't think that's a good idea, you should not be doing that. But there is no restrictions to anyone parking on a street right now in Pompton Lakes unless it's a snow emergency. We're one of the few towns that has allowable parking on the streets for any use. There's no restricted use. Now, if you're doing a business from the street, obviously you couldn't do that. But if you're parking a car on the street, you're allowed to do that. I'm not saying we should be putting spots on the street for these businesses. I'm definitely not saying that. But I just want everybody to be clear. There is no restriction to parking on a public street for any reason, unless you're doing a business on the street.
And that's the reason that I'm raising these questions, because there is no restriction, and therefore the neighbors all have more cars there than they ever expected, then they suffer. It's a nuisance. I know in my neighborhood what it's like. But I have no problem with Mr. Turco. My only concerns are for someone else that comes in. I believe that what we heard in terms of requiring a parking table and also the fact that the tenant application process must be followed and they analyze the parking, it covers our concerns. I see no problem with this.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're at testimony that was given by Mr. Turco. So I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions for Mr. Turco. And I see no one, so I'm going to close that session. Thank you.
This concludes our presentation, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you. We're going to need help putting together what we're going to vote on and not vote on now.
Sure. I'm going to see if I can read all the conditions that I remember.
Okay, so I'm going to have Andrew go through and put together an outline of all the testimony that was given and what's going to be required if we're going to consider this application. Okay, so here we go.
This would be a motion to approve the application as submitted with a slight modification as to the size of the sign. There's going to be conditions, are going to be cross-access easement between the two lots, number one. It's also going to always reference or cover the existence of the garbage trucks straddling the property line. that they will, they've received the Collier's engineering letter, they will meet all the suggested provisions and conditions. The landscaping that was approved and made a condition in the prior approval will carry on and also be a condition. There's another letter coming from Ms. Russell recently that you may not have seen, but that's also going to be, there'll be compliance with that letter, with those conditions. There'll be requirement that you notify and then, as part of your lease, make sure that none of your tenants park unlicensed vehicles on the street. The zoning table will be updated to show the number of parking spaces per potential permitted use that might be there, and that there's going to be a condition that for each new tenant or user, the applicant will get written confirmation from the zoning official that the total parking for all the tenants in that building is still underneath the number of spaces that are provided in the site plan. That would be the resolution.
What about the garbage pickup prior to 7 AM?
Yeah, he's going, that the applicant is going to notify the garbage collectors to come at 7 o'clock.
Right, but would that carry through for the next owner?
Yep, that's going to be a condition that they continuously notify.
Okay. Yeah, I mentioned that.
I didn't read that off, but that's it.
I thought you did.
What?
I thought you did.
The easement straddling it, that straddling. So that would be the motion, that would be the motion for approval, if someone wanted to move it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
And I'll second it, subject to all the stipulations that Mr. Brewer just covered.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Baig?
Yes.
Mr. Fagula?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to see you again. Have a nice summer.
Andy, could we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 5-minute break, okay? So we're gonna reconvene in, let's say 9:35.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to go out.
Let's reconvene.
I would have. Okay.
How many all set?
Yep.
Ready?
All good.
Okay. Where's mine? Okay, we're gonna move on to BOA 25-05, Doric Private Resort, 60 Lenox Avenue.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Nicolette DeSimone. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Warwick Private Resort LLC. This application pertains to property located at 60 Lenox Avenue, which is block 7000, lot 12, and is located in the borough's R4 zone. The lot is rectangular in shape, has a width of 42 feet and a depth of 216 feet for a total area of 9,072 square feet. Currently on the property, there is a 1 1/2 story frame dwelling with an enclosed porch to the rear of the home and a detached garage to the rear of the property. This application proposes a renovation and expansion of the existing structure. The applicant is proposing to expand the enclosed porch area and convert that area to a new bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. This area will be widened to match the existing width of the front of the house, which is currently at a side setback of 2.77 feet. The applicant is also proposing to expand the existing garage by keeping the existing non-conforming sidewall, which is currently at a setback of 2.87 feet, and constructing the expansion towards the interior of the property. The proposed expansion will provide the applicant with the additional space necessary to modernize the home, and it will not exacerbate the existing non-conforming side setback. The relief we are requesting tonight is as follows. We are asking for a C variance for a principal building side yard setback of 2.77 feet where 10 feet is required. The existing structure is already at a 2.77 foot setback. The addition is simply to be built out to match the existing side yard setback for that principal building. We also need a C variance for an accessory building side yard setback of 2.87 feet where 10 feet is required.
The existing garage also currently has a 2.87-foot side yard setback. The garage, like the principal structure, is being expanded to a match that existing side yard setback. I have one witness to present to you tonight, which is the applicant's architect, Sean Martian. The applicants are also here if the board has any questions for them. So at this time, I will call Sean Martian.
Please raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last.
My name is Sean Marchand, M-A-R-S-H-A-N.
Mr. Martian, sorry.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please provide the board with a brief background of your education and employment history?
Yes, my name is Sean Marchand. I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey with a good standing license. I have a bachelor's degree in architecture in 2010. I completed my education at NYIT. Been licensed architect since 2022. I own my firm, Marchand Architects, been practicing since 2010.
Have you ever testified before any municipal boards in the state of New Jersey?
I did.
And can you tell us approximately how many?
About 15.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer Mr. Martian as an architecture expert.
Okay, so this is a very simple project, although much simpler than the previous project. It's a single-family house in an undersized lot. The lot is located in R4 zone. The lot is roughly 216 by 40. So it's kind of narrow, and because of the narrow shape and the nature of this lot, the existing house is actually not in conformance with the conformance.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Can hear you.
Because of the narrow shape of the lot, the existing house is not in conformance with the setbacks, the zoning setbacks, especially the side setback. There is an existing enclosed porch and a deck, and the goal of the applicant is to really make use of this existing porch. So the whole goal is to enclose it and make it as a part of the single-family house. We are not increasing or reducing the setbacks, we're keeping the same exact setbacks for the house. There is a one-car detached garage. My applicant would like to have a two-car garage instead. And we're keeping the same existing non-conformity also. We're just giving a more appropriate size garage, 24 by 24. The next sheet, page 200, showing the building elevation. So on the right elevation, you can see where the dash line where the existing building ends, and the addition is really from that line to the right. So we're keeping the same height, we're keeping the same roof structure, the aesthetic is staying the same, which is in harmony with the surrounding neighbors. We're not really making anything, for the second story, we're keeping everything almost the same. We're just trying to make use of the enclosed porch in the back.
I did go out to the location today, and I did see that what you were exactly describing with the narrowness of the property. And I understand the side yard setbacks stay within what you already have. So it's a, I don't know if everybody else had an opportunity to go out and take a look, but it's definitely narrow right there. So they're not changing the footprint of it, so. With your addition off the back, just the runoff of water, you're just gonna continue to make sure it runs the proper way, not getting onto the next door neighbors and making sure the water flow from there is gonna work.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the only questions I have. Anybody else?
Questions on the second floor, is that an unfinished attic area, or what is the second floor?
So currently the attic, it's unfinished. There is a stair access in the attic. we're gonna keep the same exact,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Anybody else on the board have questions regarding the testimony from the applicant? No. I will open it to the public to ask any questions of the testimony that was given by the architect. I see no one coming forward, so I will close that session.
I have a question.
Go.
Where the dotted line is that where you're proposing to build a house?
So the dotted line represent the existing roof, that's where it ends right now, that's where we're proposing to go.
The distance between the house, the covered porch, and the garage, are you gonna build over there?
No.
Oh, okay. I just make sure. I was gonna say, it'd be a very long house. Okay.
No other questions?
I do have one more.
Go.
So what is the final distance between the border of your property and your house? What's the setback?
2 points.
So it was 147.73, it will be 124.21.
That's for the rear yard?
Yes.
And then how about for the house, the main part of the house,
To what, to the side or the?
the side?
Oh, to the side. So to the right side, we're keeping the same existing, which is 12.68 on the right side, and it's 2.77 on the left side. So we're gonna, the exterior wall will be flush with the existing house.
How close is the next door neighbor to that shared border?
Yeah, on the right side, I see on here on the survey, I did not prepare the survey, a licensed surveyor prepared it, but I see here there's 5.91 on the right side, on the left side there's 12.94. So on the left side, we have 12.94 and 2.77, so we're talking about like 15, 16 feet.
That's rather close. Said that's rather close.
Yeah.
I think it was last year or the year before, we had the two houses off of Parent Avenue. One caught fire and the other one did as well, because they were so close together.
It's a pre-existing condition.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I
So
know.
it's no change there.
Same
But-
is
but
true with that
the other
one
house,
too.
That's correct.
And that was the
That was Orchard.
That was Orchard. That was on Orchard. Well, I think some of the concerns would be in terms of that, as long as the structure stayed the way it is, it wouldn't be a problem. I think the concern would be if someone were to say, I own this house and I want to now go on a second story, because there's two problems with that. There's the access for fire, but there's also, this is not threatening the way that the windows are. It doesn't really impose too much on the neighbor that you're coming behind, but if you're up on the top like that, it's like, it's just a little strange. So, as long as there would be some type of, in my personal input here, as long as there was some kind of restriction that any future change to this proposal, for the use of the second story had to go through a process again.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if they just go to the building department, they've already got the building envelope now. And so my concern would only be, not what's here, but someone that were to change what's here. So I'm looking at you,
We
Andy.
can't go any higher.
Right.
That's the whole point. That's why they're here, because they are extending the same setback. If they went up, they would be extending the setback up. They would need another variance.
Right, but
They would
there's
have to do that.
also, what I'm saying is, if they changed this roof line, if they came the same
Right.
height, but they changed this roof line and put windows in here and did like
And
a
there's
Dutch
trouble.
colonial style roof here and put windows and utilize this area for living space, that's my concern.
The attic.
Fine as an attic, someone's up there, they finish their attic a little bit, that's one thing, but utilizing it completely as another area, complete living space is my concern.
If you want the applicant to come up so she can address that.
Actually, just to add to it, on the left side, we're not planning to add any windows on that for the addition.
Okay.
So that can be a condition.
Yeah, we just make that a condition. Okay, okay. All right, so your testimony, we're good with this gentleman here for his testimony?
Yes.
So if you want to bring up your homeowner?
If you guys want to hear from the
I
applicant.
will, just so we have it on record, if you want one.
Either one.
Yeah, really?
You can do both. Please both raise your right hand. Say your name, and only one person can spell the last. How's that?
I'm the difficult one. Robert Schluter, spelled S-C-H-L-U-T-E-R.
Okay?
I'm Rosemary Curtis, U-R-T-I.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you have them explain their project of the upstairs area, because that's really what we're concerned about.
Do you want to share with the board what your intentions are for the upstairs area?
So the attic right now has a very nice high peak. It's a full stand-up attic. There's a set of steps that walks up to it. So it's kind of usable for storage space. I guess you could put a bedroom up in there. There's windows at the front and the back, at the gable ends. Hearing your concern, it runs through my mind that maybe at one point we would want to put 2 dormers on the driveway side, just to get a little more light in there. Now that's away from the neighbor, that's on the far side. We realize the situation, the neighbor on the close side.
Right.
Also talking to the code enforcement officer, he says anything you build there has to be a 1-hour rated wall, because we don't want any fire spreading to the point of what happened in the other one. So that wall is going to meet the code and his requirement to be 1-hour rated. But back upstairs, would there be any difficulty putting 2 small dormers just to get some?
On the one side.
Just on the driveway side. So that's far away from the neighbor. 16.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's really gonna be up to the building.
Right. You know, we're here for a variance for the lot.
Right, right.
You know,
And I would say to you that I would obviously go back to him and say, what is, if we wanted to do this, what are the requirements?
All right, we wouldn't do that during this phase, you know, we really need to get a second bathroom in there and a bigger kitchen.
Yeah, based on, I'm
So
mostly
it's
concerned
17.
on this side for the
Right.
windows and the.
But he's saying-
Right, we'd be fine putting a restriction so that no dormers or additions or changes to the.
On the
ridge line.
left side.
You know, we would never raise the ridge line because the ridge is high enough.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's a-
Need an
Yeah,
extra
that's,
kitchen.
Yeah.
that's,
So there's gonna be, you'd be fine with the condition that no dormers on the side of the home that is 2.77 feet from the property.
Correct.
Anybody else, anybody have any questions for the applicant? Nope. Thank you. I'm gonna open it up to the public. Anybody like to come and ask questions of the applicant, of testimony? I see none, so I will close that session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, could I, ask somebody from the board to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the variance with the stipulation that Mr. Brewer had just made about the dormer on no dormer on the one side.
Second. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Bate,
yes.
Mr. Kloss,
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock,
Yes.
Mr. Rowan,
Yes.
Mr. B,
Yes.
Mr. Fagula.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
You'll get a resolution, the resolution will be, you got it, it'll be adopted next week, and then, next month, you get your permits, your attorney can explain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Good luck.
Hey, good luck.
Okay,
Bye, it's nice meeting you.
moving on to BOA 2507, Matthew Lawson, 29 Barthold Ave. Good evening.
Please, you got it. Please state your name, spell your last.
Matt Lawson, LEW Western.
You swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat. Okay. Okay, so why don't you explain to us about your project and
Right.
provide testimony, please.
So, we are planning a renovation of the home, putting a second story and expanding the first floor, as well as the front porch, portico. We also have an undersized lot. Right now, both sides of our home, less than the 10 feet requirements. We are, I think, 6 inches off on the side we propose doing the work, where we're extending the home towards the rear with that pre-existing non-conformance. There's also a staircase that would be used to enter the home in the rear. There's an existing non-conformance there, stairs to a deck that we would replace for this staircase into the rear mudroom. The front porch also violates the current setback of 30 feet, and we're planning to expand that to make it look more aesthetic and functional in the final plans. Hopefully the drawings are big enough for you to see there.
So when I was out your property today, I met you, and your front porch is currently non-conforming, correct? Because the front
That's
yard
correct.
setback. And your front porch that is proposed, how would that look to the neighbors to the right or to the left? Will it be even, set back a little bit further?
My neighbor to the left, it will not extend past their current porch.
And I believe to the right, I don't believe you're gonna be coming out to that far.
I don't think it'd be as far.
His house is further
I
out.
think the house, yeah, comes further than the porch.
Okay. And then the side yard setback, again, non-conforming, and your stairs that you're proposing going into the mudroom, is that, equal to what you have now from a side yard setback?
It
A
appears
little
so,
less?
yes.
Similar. Okay. And your addition, raising the roof, is that on par to what your neighbors have? Like height-wise?
Yes, they have a second story.
They have a second story, correct?
Correct.
Anybody else on the board have questions for the applicant?
With the addition of the new roof, are you changing any of where rainwater is going to be routed to?
It'll be going in the same locations, the downspouts.
Okay.
And I believe we're only increasing the footprint of the home by about 3%. So we shouldn't be accumulating much water.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Seems boring compared to everything.
You had to go last.
Sorry.
Can I get a motion on this application?
I move to approve the plans.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Abate,
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Ms. Brunstock,
Yes.
Mr. Rowan,
Yes.
Mr. Big,
Yes.
and Mr. Fagula.
Yes. Next month, there'll be a resolution that will get published, that will get adopted, that will get published 45 days later. After that, someone could challenge it, but you can judge whether or not you think that's gonna happen.
Excuse me, I did not open up the public session. I didn't.
You can note that there is no public in there.
There is no public.
Let's no technicalities, please.
There are no one in the audience for the public.
Nor was there during the application.
Nor was there anybody during the application.
So anyway, and after next month, you can go, if you need to build, you can go to building permit, submit for your application. You'd have to sign a waiver that you say, I understand if someone from the public challenges this, I may be at risk.
Okay.
Go upset. Go up with your project.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good luck.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
For me.
Matt, I'll be in touch with you.
Pardon?
I'll
I
keep you
always
in
forget
touch.
to do that.
Okay. Wherever
Touch with you.
When there's no,
I know, right?
motion to adjourn.
No, not yet.
Congratulations.
We have a resolution, 2506, 431 Ringwood Avenue. Everyone had the opportunity to read the resolution?
Yes.
Anybody have any comments, corrections, changes? None? Can I get a motion to accept those resolutions?
We'll make a motion, we accept the resolution as written.
Second. Roll call.
Abate,
Dave?
okay, Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Abate,
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Ms. Brunstock, present?
I'm a present.
Huh?
I'm present.
Mr. Rowan,
Yes.
Mr. Big,
Yes.
and Mr. Fagula.
Yes. Okay, new unfinished business, Mr. Koss. Do you have anything to report on open space?
The chair, Maria Kent, was not present, so Mayor Mike took over and had us in and out in 45 minutes, moved it right along.
That's what we like to do.
The only thing was, with Hirschfeld Park, the playground was almost done, but I believe it's done now, right?
Yes.
Benches.
Okay. And the new bridge and walkway set for the end of the month, end of August, correct?
It's been pushed back. Well, it could be pushed back.
I thought it was, after summer camp ended,
It
but
was,
before
the
school
bridge is
started.
back ordered right now, so we're hoping, they're shooting for that.
Okay.
Design application was submitted.
The other thing we talked about with the new dock is coming in, I believe that is in now, correct?
Looks great.
And you talked about the bid still being out for, the, ball fields, right? For the new, ball field. Joe Riddle. Yeah, like I said, Mike moved everybody in and out quick.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Koss on open space?
Oh, the balance was 491,694. If that's still the same.
Yes.
But how much was allocated already? I forget.
River cleanup or something?
What's that?
Didn't you have river cleanup or something?
Oh, we did. I don't even remember if it was since last meeting. Yeah, I think the river cleanup went really well. We had 76 participants there, so
Wow.
thank you for asking.
Great.
Did check the cat. I went kayaking yesterday. The couch is still there, so we got to get it out. Yeah. But we'll get that done at some point. But we cleaned up almost a ton of garbage in the town that day, so.
Well,
Yeah,
Good job.
it's quite a bit, so thank you. Yeah, thanks for everybody that came out. It's really well appreciated.
Before? When was the rec- Oh, that was the day after the.
Yeah, I'm losing track of time.
Okay, we're gonna open up the public, see if anybody's out there that wants to talk. You don't? So we'll close that session. Can I get an adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Make
Opposed?
a motion, Big and who's first? Abate?
Yeah.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
All right.